Hello there and then welcome to a brand new video. This is Hub Beyond Numbers where we learn maths the easy way. Now we are on BECE 2023 question 6 and it's as you can see it displays. It says using a scale of 2 centimeters is to 2 units on both axes. Draw on a graph sheet 2 perpendicular axes OX and then OY for the interval X is less than or equal to 10 but greater than or equal to negative 10. And then you have negative 10 less than or equal to y less than or equal to 10. So this that we have over here, we quickly go to the graph sheet and then get that on our graph sheet. So this is my graph sheet here. And as you can see, I have my intervals in twos on the x-axis and then also on the y-axis. This is my x-axis, this is my y-axis, and I've written the scale nicely over here. Now let's go back to the question. Now coming back to the question, it says on the same graph sheet, we have to draw a quadrilateral ABCD with vertices 2, 4, 2, 8, 8, 8, and then D, which is 8, 4. So once again, let's go to our graph sheet so that we do what? We plot out these points. So the very first one, which is A, our A is 2, 4. A is 2, 4. So on 2, on x-axis, we look for 2. Then we go up to where we have 4. And we put our point over there. So these are the points I'll be putting there. So 2, 4, I have that here. So I have my 2, 4 there. Then B was 2, 8. So we come to 2 and then we move up to 8. I have that also as well over here. And then C was 8, 8. So that is on the x-axis, we look for 8. And then on the y-axis, we look for 8 as well. So this is it here. And then finally, the last point is 8, 4. So 8, 4. And that is it over here. Now, remember that we were told it was a quadrilateral. So you are not supposed to be told to join the point. You see, so you would have to join them to form your quadrilateral. So forming my quadrilateral or my rectangle, I'm just going to join these points. I have these points being joined here. You use a ruler for that nicely. Okay, so with that done, let's look at what the question requires us to do again. Now, the next part says the image A1, B1, C1, D1 of our quadrilateral ABCD under the translation vector -5, -2, where A maps to A1, B maps to B1, C maps to C1, and then D maps to D1. Over here, we are doing a translation, you see. We are translating all the points. So take note of the point over here, and then we see how we are going to do the translation. Now, if you have a point, so let's say you have a point X, Y, and then you are translating it by a vector. So let me rather make the point AB. So you have a point A, B, and you are translating it by a vector V, where V is X, Y. All you need to do is to add the corresponding component. You see, so we add the corresponding component. That is, we add A to X and then B to Y. So X component adds up to what? X component, and Y also does same. Hence, for what we have over here, our translation vector, let's say it's V, was given as -5, -2. All right. Hence, we are going to apply it to each and every point. In that case, our A1, remember they said A maps to A1. So our A1 is actually going to be the coordinate of A plus your translation vector, which is your -5, -2. And we know the coordinate of A to be what? 2, 4. So you have 2, 4, then plus our -5, -2. This is where you apply a little bit of integers. So we have 2 plus and minus, we have a minus 5, then 4 minus 2. Evaluating further, we have 2 minus 5, which then gives us a negative 3, and then 4 minus 2, which gives us a 2. So that becomes the coordinate of A1. You see, then we do this same thing also for what? B1. So B1 would then be equal to what? B plus our vector negative 5, negative 2. Substituting, we then have our B. Let me check its coordinate. So B was 2, 8. So 2, 8 plus your negative 5, negative 2. And you make sure you don't treat it as vectors where you are going to say you are dividing through and then simplifying. No, we don't do that. Hence, we have our 2, negative 5, then 8, negative 2. And evaluating that further, you're going to get 2 minus 5, which is negative 3. Then 8 minus 2, which gives us a negative, a 6. Sorry. So a 6. Right? So that becomes the coordinate of what? B1. Follow that same procedure. Work out for C. C was 8, 8. Then work out for D. Then you can let me know at the comment section what do you get after that. Okay, so if you were able to do it, then well done. Your C1 is actually a 3, 6. And your D1 would be a 3, 2. You see? So now that we have all our points, let's now go to the graph and then plot everything out over there. So it says the image under, yes, so let's quickly go in and get that. So this was our initial plot. Now let's look for our new points. So for our A1, we had negative 3, 2. So we come to negative 3. You know, per our scale, our negative 3 is in between. Since all these are even, negative 3 is in between. So negative 3 on x-axis, then we move up to 2 on the y-axis. So I have that over here. Then the next point, which was B1, was negative 3, 6. So negative 3, 6. We have that as well over here. So on x equals negative 3, and then we have our 6 over there. And then the next one was 3, 6. 3, 6. So we come and look out for 3 on the x-axis, and then we move up to 6. That is over here. So let's put that there. 3, 6. I put the point over there. Then finally our D1. So the last one is rather the C, C1. So C1 is then what? That was 3, 6. 3, 6. That was the one you solved. You see? So after getting all these points, what you now do is you draw your line. You see? You join them to form the quadrilateral we need. All right? So I'm coming to join them. This is what I'm going to get. Now you don't forget to label them to show that this here is your A1, your B1, your C1, and then your D1. So let me quickly do that as well. So this is what we have. Now there are some instances where when you are doing translation, if it is translation you are doing, then you can join the point used with what do you call it? With dotted lines, you see, to show what is actually moving towards what. So since A is moving towards A1, we are going to do something like this, a straight line. And then since B is moving towards B1, we use a straight line to denote that. Same applies here, and then same applies here to show how it has actually moved, right? That being said, let's look at the next question. Now it says the image A1, B2, sorry, A2, B2, C2, D2 of ABCD under the reflection in the y-axis. we are reflecting in the y-axis where A maps to A2, B maps to B2, and then C maps to C2, and then what have you. So what this actually means is, you see this figure here, the one in yellow, that is the one we are rather reflecting. You see, and we are reflecting on what? The y-axis. You see, on the y-axis. So this is our mirror line, and we want to reflect it towards this side. Now, there are rules for reflection, and it is very, very simple. So if you want to reflect on the y-axis, just maintain your y value and negate the x value. Once again, if you want to reflect on the y-axis, maintain your y value and negate the x value. Let's look at what that means over here. So let's work them out. Now, we are reflecting on the y-axis, and as I said, if you have a point x, y, and you want to reflect on the y-axis, then all we need to do is to negate the x, you see. So our mirror line is the y-axis, you see. So it becomes negative x, y. Hence, for our point A, whose coordinate was 2, 4, if we reflect it on the y-axis, we are going to get our A2, whose coordinate is negative 2, 4. All we've done is to negate its x component. Same applies to B, whose coordinate was 2, 8. After reflection, we are going to get what? A B2, whose coordinate will be a negative 2, 8. C, whose coordinate was 8, 8. After reflection becomes what? C2, whose coordinate is negative 8, 8. Then for D, whose coordinate is negative 8, 4, you are going to get a D2, whose coordinate, this coordinate was actually 8, 4. 8, 4. So after reflection, we are going to get a negative 8, 4. So these here are the coordinates that we need to plot to form our quadrilateral A2, B2, C2, D2. So let's come to our sheet over here and then look for our points. The first one we are going to look for is that of A2, which is negative 2, 4. So negative 2 up to what? 4. So we put our point over there. And the same applies to what? B2, which is negative 2, 8. Negative 2, 8. So I have my point here for negative 2, 8. Then we do same for what? Negative 8, negative 8, which was our C2. So C2, negative 8, negative 8, negative 8, negative 8. This is it over here. Then the last one, which is D, that is D2, negative 8, 4. So negative 8, 4. We have that here as well. Now, after all of this, the only thing we need to do is to draw our, or join the points, you see. So joining the points, I'm going to have something like this over here, you see. And you don't forget to write out the coordinates, you see. We don't forget to do that. So let me quickly do that. So this here are our plots successfully done, right? So if there's any question or issue of concern, you can always let me know in the comment section and I'll reply that. Now let's go to the next question. The next question says, what type of quadrilateral is ABC? What type of quadrilateral is ABC? Quadrilateral ABC is actually a rectangle. You see, it is a rectangle. There's no doubt about that. So the reason being that all the angles are 90 degrees and the opposite sides are equal. So you just write it is a rectangle. Now this is one of the most important parts, which is you have to find the gradient of the line A2, B1. A2, B1. Now, we have to take note of the following. The gradient of a formula, that is M, is given by, the gradient of a line, that is M, is given by y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. You see, and the point we have, so it says A2, B1, right? So our point A2, that is if you were following, is actually negative 2, 4. And then that of B1 was what? Negative 3, 6. This simply means if you didn't get this point correctly, whatever you are going to plot out or the gradient you are going to solve for is going to be wrong. You see, so one thing leads to the other. Hence, let's let the set A, the set A2 be our x2, y2. And that of B1 becomes our x1, y1. Hence, substituting, we have our gradient M being equal to, it says y2. We have said our y2 is 4. So 4 minus y1. We have also said our y1 is 6. So minus 6 all over x2. And x2 is negative 2. So negative 2 minus x1, which is a negative 3. What is left is for you to what? Simplify. So our gradient M is 4 minus 6. That is a negative 2 over, this is a negative 2, and since we have negative here, it becomes plus. So plus 3. Further simplification gives us a negative 2 over a 1. And we know any number over 1 is the same number. So negative 2 over 1 then gives us a negative 2. And that becomes the gradient of line A2, B1, right? So this is the solution for BECE 2023 question 6A. And that is actually the very last question of this set. Now, I'll give out some exercises as I always do, just to test your understanding. So you have the question here which says, using a scale of 1 centimeter to 1 unit, draw axis from this you have over here. You can just read it out and then follow the instructions, very, very simple ones, and try and come up with a solution. So that ends this lesson. And as usual, if this is your first time, you can always choose to subscribe so that anytime I release a video, you'll be notified as well. See you in our next session, and bye for now.